Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, and today's topic is going to be, as you see in my hand, the divine code. And that's going to be the idea it's a very new book, and that's why I wanted to share it with you. And let me introduce the ideas before we get into these, what this book is actually trying to say. Now, the Judaism, of course, has a lot of Jewish laws. If a person's Jewish, then they surely know what I'm talking about. Everybody even makes a joke. There's laws for this, prayers for this, blessings for that. Wherever you turn, there's another law, and every day goes by, another holiday is coming by you. But even if a person's not Jewish, you're familiar with, of course, there's Hanukkah, there's Passover, there's the New Year. These things are out there. They're even in your shopping malls, and you know something's happening, and people know that there's a lot of laws in Judaism. Now, the next question is, of course, what did the Jewish Torah feel about or obligate the Gentiles that are non-Jewish? What do they have to do? Do they get off doing nothing? Or, all right, the commandments are for the Jews, and the Gentiles don't have to do anything? Or what do they have to do? And the second question is, and probably doesn't apply to most people, and I'm sure it doesn't, but there are a few people that they come to me, Rabbi, I'd like to know about being Jewish. So in their mind, it's like black or white. Well, I was not Jewish, and I'd like to know what being Jewish is. And the trouble is, of course, I say, I have to be honest, of course, and I say being Jewish, there's a lot of laws if you want to be Jewish. We would accept it. I'm not looking for proselytes. I'm not looking to convert anybody, but I'm just going to be honest. If you do, then, there's kosher laws. There's no kosher restaurant in the capital district. You can't eat out anymore. There's a Saturday, you can't watch your football game Saturday afternoon, and on and on. And kind of just being honest with them, I tried to dissuade them, because I said there's just so many laws. Of course, I do them. I'm obligated as a Jewish person, and I feel that they're good and nice. I don't feel like repressed. On the other hand, if you're not into it, or you don't have to, and surely if you're not Jewish, why would you choose it? Well, there are a few people do convert, and a lot of people get dissuaded, but then they feel, well, I do want to know about Judaism and the Torah. And to those people, this is what we're going to talk about a little bit today. And I say a little bit because there's really so much to talk about. But the idea is just that, first of all, let's remove the negativity from your attitude. Meaning that most religions saying, well, if you're not with us, you're against us, and either you'll burn in purgatory, you deserve to die. You always hear these throughout history, and unfortunately you see people even talking about those things even nowadays in the 21st century. All right, fine, you hear about that other religions. What does Judaism say? What does the Judaism say? Well, only the Jews, the next world, the Garden of Eden's for the Jews and not for anybody else, and better you should be dead. Is that what Judaism says? Well, that's what we're here to inform people. No, Torah does not say that. Judaism does not say that. And the basic premise really is, it's from the Rambam, who's Maimonides, and it's not New Age, because I'm quoting you from the Maimonides that's 1,000 years ago that he wrote. It's just the most basic Judaism. I know there's different sects of Judaism today, and there's secular Judaism, there's religious Judaism, and on and on and on. But I'm talking about basic that nobody argues with. So what does the Maimonides say about non-Jews? If the non-Jews keep their 7 B'nai Noach, now we're going to call that the Noahide laws, Noahide, from the word Noach. And just I'm digressing for a second, but I have to define the terms, that according to Torah, everybody came from the first man, Adam. Fine, but then if you know basic Bible stories, there's I don't know how many people, and never says that, but obviously there were thousands. After about 1,600 years, there were many, many people in the world, and they rebelled against God. God says, I can't take it anymore. I'm getting rid of everybody. And then you have Noah and his flood, I'm only saying saving you, Noah, and your 3 sons and all your wives. That's 8 people. And therefore everybody else is going to be wiped off the face of the map from the flood. So therefore, even though we could say everybody's from Adam, then in another sense everybody comes from Noah. So therefore that's what we call them 7 Noahide laws, because these are for all humanity. All humanity comes from Noah, no matter who you are and what culture you're at, on and on throughout the world. All human beings are equal in that sense. And so, all right, now everybody keeps these 7 Noahide laws. Then, this is I'm quoting the Maimonides, not my opinion, not anybody's opinion, that they have a share in the Olam Haba, which means the next world, meaning that they get the Garden of Eden, and they are considered, these are his word, Chassid. You hear the word Chassidim, it means pious or the saintly of the non-Jews. So very nice words, of course. And, it's not like, well, if you're not Jewish, you'll burn it. Just very much the opposite. He says very nice things about the non-Jews. Yeah, but now the next question is, all right, what are the 7 laws of Noahide laws? And we're going to discuss them in detail, but let me at least throw them out in general, and then we'll get into more specifics. And, of course, there's always a lot of specifics. One is do not kill. These are very humanistic laws. Do not kill, do not steal, no forbidden sexual contacts, meaning shouldn't be married to your mother, those kind of ideas. And there's more details for all these, but just as in general, the only kosher law, do not eat a limb from a live animal, which again, wouldn't be humane, it wouldn't be according to USDA anyway. Can't just knock a piece of meat off an animal. They wouldn't allow it in the United States anyway. I don't know about other cultures. Those are 4. Then the other 5 is just not to worship idols. That's number 5. Do not blaspheme God, curse out God. And number 7 is a very positive law. It's to set up a court system. And that, again, really that's what we're going to talk about, all these laws, and that's why there's a book. I said it in one, a few sentences, but of course there's on and on. There's so many more details with it. I remember we were going to another city and trying to advocate to these 7 mitzvahs, these 7 commandments. And, the mayor of this small town said, well, let me see before I make a resolution, I got to read it. And he read it and he says, well, it's kind of hard to argue with any of these laws, which I think underscores really the idea. I don't know if anybody would find objectionable to any of these 7 laws. Don't kill, don't steal, and like I say, certain things are these are all United States laws, really. There's a court system. You can't you can't go against the laws of the land. So therefore, they're very universal. At least I'm not going to say surely the United States, which is the country we live in. But again, like I said before, there's many, many more details, and that's what we're going to devote this show. Maybe we'll have to have 2 shows next show to get into all the details. For example, would like to get into would be moral conduct. We said there has to be court system, but there's also idea of the moral code that every human being has to adhere to. For example, what about honoring your parents? That's in the 10 Commandments. So the Nachmanides, I said before Maimonides, Nachmanides, who also lived about 1,000 years ago, took a very liberal view of the court system and said, these are really all humanistic laws. If you don't call up your mother, the FBI is not going to arrest you. You don't talk to your mother the rest of your life. There's no law in the United States against that, of course, we know that. But is that morally correct? So therefore, a lot of laws in the United States are morally correct. Obviously, don't kill, don't steal, those kind of things. You can't cheat your customers. There's all kinds of laws about that. But let's say, for example, like I just brought out, honoring your parents. Well, like I just said, there's no law that you have to call up your parents once a week. There's just no law like that. what would Torah say? So therefore, Torah does have a broader view of the moral conduct of human beings. It goes beyond the United States laws or any country's law. I don't know every culture in the world, but I don't know what they would do with you if you didn't contact your parents or you didn't honor your parents, for example. But there are all kinds of laws like that that a person has to adhere to. For example, and dealing still with the Ten Commandments, don't be jealous. Well, if you start taking something from somebody else, well, of course, that's against the law. That's obviously stealing. But you can feel what you want about a person. You can hate them. Obviously, you can't hit them in the nose. That's against the law. But you can hate them. And to yourself, you murmur, and to your friends, saying, I hate that person. I wish he'd drop dead. You know, all these kind of, lower kind of character traits. Or you can be totally jealous of a person. And again, that isn't against the law. And then say, I hate you, something like that. Or you talk to a friend, what are they going to do against you? Or I'm jealous. Man, I really would love that Lexus that other person has. Again, it's not against United States code or any legal code, but it's against Torah code. So therefore, you could say some of these commandments have to do with Jews, but that's what I'd like to get into, of how much, for example, and there's really so much to talk about, but I just would like to get into this also, of this moral conduct over here. Now we're going to talk about really more obligatory moral conduct. And we said a little bit beforehand, but there's surely more. Like I say, I mean, what's against the law is against the law. No one's saying that. And people should obviously adhere to the law of the city, the state, and the country, to say the least. That goes without saying, but we're going a step further in that there's laws in Torah that are incumbent upon people that, like I just told you a few examples, honoring your parents. There's no law in the book that you have to, take care of your parents or call your parents or like your parents. Those kind of ideas. There's absolutely no law like that. Every person has natural traits. There are other traits that one acquires by regularly habituating himself to act in these ways. So either you're born a certain way or you get used to ways. A person must always evaluate his traits and strive to bring them towards the correct path. How so? One must strive not to become angered or to be an angry person, for these traits are despicable and they destroy one's life. Therefore, the sages taught that anyone who gets angry suffers the departure of his intellect. And almost like we could say, maybe say he's out of his mind. And this type of a life is greatly lacking. If one is naturally an angry person, he should train himself not to get angry at all, and he should force himself to act with humility and patience towards others by habit till he permanently acquires these good traits. Likewise, with other personality traits, one should evaluate himself truthfully to determine if he acts as a righteous person would, and he should correct himself to act in a way that finds favor in the eyes of God and in the eyes of other people. A person should not be a buffoon or constantly despondent. Rather, one should be happy and should greet others with a happy countenance. Similarly, one should not be greedy, rushing for wealth and possessions, nor lazy and idler from work. Rather, one should look upon others with a favorable eye and be favorably looked upon by others. One should not have a quarrelsome or envious, jealous temperament, or be possessed by desires, nor pursue honor. The sage Rabbi Nachman said in this tractate, in a Mishnais in the Talmud, envy, lust, and honor-seeking drive a person from life in this world. So therefore, it's not a nice thing, but it wouldn't be good for a person also. If a person has one of these bad traits, how should he refine himself? One should habituate himself to the correct traits till they become habitual for him. He should force himself to perform actions that are morally and logically correct many times, until these actions are easy and the correct traits are set into his soul. For example, in regard to what we have written previously about the bad trait of anger, he should train himself that if he is hit or cursed, he should not arouse his anger at all. That is, he should not answer back or fight about this, but he should accept it silently against his nature. And he should habituate himself to do so until the anger is removed from his heart. Likewise, one who is a buffoon and wastes his time with foolish jokes and lightheadedness, which have no benefit, should distance himself from his friends who have these habits. If he comes into contact with them, he should close his mouth and stop from saying his usual foolish words. Instead, he should regularly act with seriousness, the opposite of his previous foolish ways. It is forbidden for a person to tell lies or act in a smooth-tongued and luring manner in order to deceive or persuade. One should not speak one thing outwardly and think otherwise in his heart. Rather, his inner self should be like his image that he shows to the world. He may not deceive people, and instead he should always pursue truthfulness. A person should direct his heart and the totality of his behavior to one goal, which is becoming aware of God and searching to be close to him and his just ways. How so? When involved in business dealings to make a profit, one should not think solely of gathering money to be rich, and certainly not just to hoard money for no purpose at all, as is the way of the stingy. Rather, he should earn his income with righteousness and honor, and his goal in this should be to have a healthy and strong body, to provide for the members of his household respectfully, and to do charitable deeds with his money as are logically expected, for his good and the good of others. Well, just let me interject, which of course I always do in any case, is just that, again, we talked about, in many cases, many laws here, or many ideas here, which really, the truth of the matter is I don't know if there's one that's against legal law. Maybe, again, not to fight back would be the only thing. You can't fight a person, but otherwise, this different conduct that a person acquires is not against the law, but Torah, of course, has a higher standard. Here's another interesting commandment, that of charity. Now, of course, the IRS, the tax department will give you a break if you give to charity, but again, what if you don't? No one's going to penalize you saying, I just didn't give a penny to charity this year. So no one says anything, and again, it's totally in your right legally to do that, but again, you see that Torah wants a person saying, listen, you're making nice money, should help someone else more unfortunate than you. Again, a person doesn't have to help anybody in the United States or in most countries in the world. No one says you have to give charity. So in any case, further and further on that we see that we go, that these are ideas that are at a higher spiritual level. Likewise, all his other actions should be intended for this goal, as he should not do things without any reason at all or for vain reasons. As Solomon the wise said, in all your ways you should know him, and he will straighten your ways. Meaning that you should think through all your actions before they are taken, in order that they should definitely be for the goal of doing the will of God. With this effort, God will illuminate the correct path for the person and will bestow success in it. Every person by nature is very influenced by his friends and surroundings, and by nature he is drawn after those around him to also act in their ways. Therefore, everyone must befriend good people to learn from their worthy actions and distance themselves from bad people in order not to learn from their bad actions. As Solomon said, he who walks with the wise will become wise, while one who associates with fools will suffer. Therefore, one must also be especially careful about who his children and other household members are befriending and what places they are frequenting. And that sounds like an info commercial over here. That's Like I say, you have these things in the 21st century. These were written by the Rambam, Maimonides, and Solomon. Even though they're thousands of years old, you see they're apropos. People, even though I know we have computers today and we have a different society, on the other hand, the moral conduct of most people are really the same. So it was said how to be a better person a few thousand years ago. It really, you see that it could be put on a commercial today to how to make a better life and take care of your children. Likewise, it is an obligation for every person to endeavor to influence those around them, to observe those things that they are obligated in a way of friendliness and sociability. One who is able to distance those around them from doing wrong has an obligation to do so in order to support the foundation of a moral society that will be as God wishes. As the prophet says in Isaiah, the world was not created to be void, but properly settled. Again, this is another idea that the Maimonides brings out about people, and that is just that about, and it is one of the 613 mitzvahs for the Jewish people, so it's not just a nice thing. The idea that a person should try to better society if someone's doing something wrong. You see your neighbor doing something wrong, well, it's his problem, it's not my problem. But again, that you see a person you can influence them, then that would be an incredible idea that you would be able to help them. If one sees that his friend has sinned and is following an improper path, and he knows that he will be able to effectively rebuke him with words and return him to the correct path, he should do so. How should he rebuke him? He should rebuke him patiently with respectful and nice words, and he should not speak harshly or embarrass him, unless the one rebuking is a true scholar of human nature who understands in this particular situation it is the correct way to influence him to be better, since each situation and person is different. His objective should be that his words should be accepted by the sinner's heart, and they should have the right effect. It is a very righteous deed to bring another to the merit of following the correct path, and one who accomplishes this does great good for humanity and brings God much pleasure. If one begins to affectionately rebuke his friend but sees that his words are not being accepted, he should not admonish him further in order to embarrass him, which will cause a useless fight. Rather, he should distance himself somewhat from the person so that it does not seem that he is agreeing to and supporting his actions. Certainly, one should never flatter sinners unless he is in great danger that they might harm him otherwise. And one should always try to respect every person to show him honor and speak about his honorable traits and deeds, but not about his disgraceful traits and deeds. Many fights in the world are brought about by people who spread tales, gossip, and slander about others. The sage Ben Zoma said, "Who is wise? One who learns from every person. Who is strong? One who subdues his evil inclination. Who is rich? One who is happy with his lot. Who is honored? One who honors others." Likewise, a person should not take revenge or hold a grudge towards another. What is an example of taking revenge? If A asks for a favor from his friend B, and B does not agree to do it for A, and then the next day B asks A for a favor, and A answers to B, "I will not do this favor for you, just like you did not do one for me." If A says, "I will do it for you unlike you, who didn't want to do a favor for me before," he is still holding a grudge. A person must know that these traits, taking revenge or holding a grudge, are extremely bad, and they bring enmity and conflict between mankind. Almost every fight starts with something small which is not worthy of fighting over, and then it gets out of control, and hatefulness or arguing can end up in bloodshed or the like. Instead, a person should overlook the bad traits of others and do kindness to his friends until they all love him and his actions. They will learn from him about the correct way to act. This is the truly good way in which is to correct to behave, and the true path by which it is possible to establish stable and productive societies which are based on good principles and peaceful business dealings between people. All the things explained in this chapter are only a small part and a few examples of a person's moral obligations. We have written this in brief as an introduction for one who wishes to strive in gaining understanding and following the correct ways with other people and with God. So it was a short idea, it's an introduction. There's so much more to talk about, to say the very least. But I just at least want to give you a taste that you say, well, I'm a good person. You know, I don't break the laws. You know, don't kill, don't steal, pay my taxes. I'm a good citizen, went to work, retired, whatever have you. You know, I didn't harm anybody else, which is all fine and good. But on the other hand, there is something special about the Torah law which takes us to all a higher plane. You know, we're good people, but you know, you have to go to a higher idea and guide in order to feel that a person is, you know, really doing what God wants, not just seeing that we want. Say, well, I'm a good person, that's the way I see it. Well, another person doesn't see it that way. All kinds of cultures, they always think they're right. You know, Iran feels they're right, and you know, and the Nazis felt they were right. You know, you would talk to them, they said, well, we're doing the best thing for society, getting rid of the undesirables. So, you know, then who is right? I mean, in the United States, mainly people are good people. It's a beautiful country and beautiful laws, but what if a person would say and argue with you, well, I think I should get away and cheat as much as I can as long as I don't get away, you know, I get away with it. So how are you going to answer? Well, it's not nice, not right, I don't do those things, which may be all true. But you see that there's a universal law by God, and He's the one who really determines what's right and wrong. So you say, well, God doesn't want it. And the Torah that was given to Moses on Mount Sinai was given over to all human beings as code of divine conduct, and we have to follow that law. And that would be the answer to any person. So even if you are, surely if you're bad, then you have to turn good. And even if you're good, that's what we're trying to bring out. Your person could always do better. Does the person give enough charity? Does he have good feelings towards his friends, to even his enemies? So every person, no matter who they are, could be raised to a higher level. And hopefully through this book, and we only read a few pages, the Divine Code will give you an inspiration of what, you know, we could expect from God's divine law. Thank you very much.